Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another book versus episode video. And in today's video, we're going to be running down Bride of the Living Dummy, the book versus the episode. The episode I gave a 3.7 out of 5. It has its issues, little small things that add up, but it's still a plain Jane good Goosebumps book. The episode I gave about a 4 out of 5. It is flawed in its own ways. It's more of an in-name only adaptation to the episode, really only keeping like 3 things from the book entirely, kind of changing some things up, for better or for worse. But I do think that Randy Bradshaw and Ron Oliver were able to deliver something cool here. In case you didn't know, I am holding up this DVD here of the Night of the Living Dummy episode, but if you turn it on the back, it is Bride of the Living Dummy. This is a little 2-pack of Night of the Living Dummy 2 and Bride of the Living Dummy that I did not show off in my Night of the Living Dummy 2 videos. So, yeah. But, I'll be honest. Going into this, I really don't know where my mind is really at. And I think I'm going to decide by the end of the video. Because in a lot of ways, you might think that the point disparity might point towards an obvious winner. But sometimes that's not really the case. And in this, even in a lot of regards, in my opinion, and we'll get into that. But in these book versus episode videos, we like to run down a few things. Comparing the two products of the books and the episodes, we like to look at characters and run down the characters and see which ones were done better in which version. And then we like to run down atmosphere, compare which one had a better atmosphere. Sometimes we'll talk about aesthetics or tone. In this video, we're not really going to do that. I possibly could bring up tone, but I think I'm just going to stay away from that because the main differences are in the plot, which we also run down the plot and go over which one is better. And then we like to run down the climax and then the overall ending and decide which one of those did those things better. So let's start off with characters because I feel like that's the easiest place to start. And I want to bring up Jillian, the main character, first. In the episode, Jillian feels a little more basic. I think that revenge aspect that she had in the book is completely taken away from her. And she doesn't really have much layers going for her, even though her actress did a fine job playing her. And she does have some solid moments going for her. She's not really that fleshed out compared to the book, but she's serviceable and fine given the story that she's given. The book, it's a lot more complex for her character. You understand that her siblings of Katie and Amanda have kind of withered her down for a while with this doll named Mary Ellen. She wants to get some revenge, but she can't really seem to figure out how. But overall, throughout the story, she comes to conclusions and she goes through some mental trauma dealing with Slappy and stuff. And I feel like there's more to her character in the book overall. Even though the ending, I think, takes away from her character in some ways for me, and I just don't like where it ends up for her. I still think she's better in the book, so I'm going to give Jillian to the book. But I will say the episode, she's not really done anything wrong or has anything bad happen to her. She's just fine. As in the book, I think there's more to her. So she goes to the book. Let's run down the sister characters real quick. Amanda, she's easy. She's not in the episode, so she defaults to the book. Amanda is the twin sister of Katie, and she's all right in the book. She's just kind of like a toady character. Her and Katie both don't really have much going for her. For them, I mean. So yeah, by default, Amanda goes to the book. But Katie, she's in the episode as the main sister, and her actress is kind of high-pitched and annoying, but since she's the only like young girl sibling, she gets a little more star power compared to the book. But at least in the book, there's some things with her and Amanda combined that that are kind of intriguing, especially by the end, implying that they knew an event was going on the whole time. But if I had a preference, honestly, I think there's give and takes with both that I'll be willing to tie Katie here. I think she's fine and serviceable in both products. Now Harrison, I know there's a lot of people that are Team Harrison in the episode. Harrison, he doesn't really have much dialogue. He's fine. I think he's implied to be the brother of Jillian and Katie. I'm not too sure, though. I think that's the implication. But he does feel a little bit different compared to his book counterpart. You see some personality, some funny one-liner quips from him that were great, genuinely. And the ending that involves him is absolutely iconic. And we're getting kind of ahead of myself. But the stuff done with Harrison here, I think, is a little more memorable for his character. But the book, I think there's more to him. I think he has more development there. He's more integral to the story, at least to the plot the book is building. Now, he's kind of a mid character, if I'm being honest. There's nothing really that stands out to him other than he likes to eat a lot. He keeps pushing to do things out of Jillian's comfort zone. He's kind of a reluctant participant in the story. But, like I said, I feel like there's more to his character in the book. But if I'm being honest, if I had a preference, I'd probably give Harrison the edge to the episode, just by a smidge. Even though there's less to him, I think the stuff done with him is a bit better here. So, there you go. Now, let's go over the parents. They're pretty easy to go over. The mom and dad. They're pretty much even, deadlocked. They pretty much serve the story to be, there to leave the house for the climax and stuff and leave the kids. It's a typical thing, but yeah, they're fine. Then the main three characters I want to bring up is these three. And let's start off with Jimmy O. James. In the book, Jimmy O. James, sorry, I gotta clear my throat a little bit. Allergy season. But Jimmy O. James in the book, he's there. I feel like they try to do something here with Jimmy. He somehow is a possessor of all this information about Slappy and his lore. He's coming into possession. This is the fourth book in the franchise. He, precedes Zane from the previous book. And having Slappy, even though it's never really explained how he got Slappy or anything, he just knows a lot of information about him. Apparently knows how to turn him off. But he's kind of a non-important character to the story. He's just there to fulfill how the kids get Slappy and how they come across information on Slappy to build tension for Jillian's character. As in the episode, I feel like he's more of a player. And honestly, the guy who plays Jimmy in this episode did a fantastic job. I feel he gets humanized more. He has more of a moral dilemma to his character. When he gives Slappy to the kids, he does it, he doesn't really want to do it, but he's gotten to the point where he's at the end of his rope and he has no other choice. And he seems sympathetic, and you understand why he's doing it. And I just think Jimmy sticks out more to me in the episode, so I'll be willing to give Jimmy the edge to the episode. Now, the two main stars, I would say, is Mary Ellen and Slappy. Mary Ellen, in the episode, she is frightening. Compared to what she looks like on the cover of the book, Mary Ellen is scary in the episode. The voice actor did a very good job on her character. But I also feel that the stuff with Mary Ellen, at least the story was building in the episode, didn't come near as close as the book did for her character. So I'm going to give the edge to Mary Ellen in the book. I think the ending where we figure out what Mary Ellen's been behind recontextualizes her as the main villain of the story. And honestly, I dig a lot about that. There are some caveats to it, though. Some drawbacks with it. Some context issues about events prior that kind of convolute the whole Slappy thing. Maybe being alive or not throughout the whole story. But aside from that, Mary Ellen was an awesome villain. And I like how she was handled in the book a little bit better, so she goes to the book. Now, Slappy. Slappy, in my opinion, the worst Slappy I've ever seen was in the book. I mean, he was fine in the first few chapters we see him in. But then, by the ending, it gets recontextualized that he was pretty much sidelined in his own book. And when he does come around near the end, he's just starting to act more like Mr. Wood, and like a Mr. Wood knockoff, with like being violent and hitting things and vomiting green vomit than actually being Slappy. And I just feel like he's so out of character, and I really don't jive with Slappy that much in the book. But in the episode, he feels like Slappy. Now, there's some things involving his motives and stuff in both versions. In the book, I don't think it's as bad as the episode. In the book, it just feels way out of character and, kind of icky, kind of, insinuating something. But the episode really turns on his character, and he's pretty much in it throughout the whole time. And the context that gets changed here, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's as bad as the book, because he's not really coming off like a Mr. Wood knockoff. He still feels like Slappy here. But it's not necessarily an improvement at all by any means. So, when it comes to Slappy, if I had a slight preference, I would give it to the episode, just because I think it fixed him being sidelined throughout the whole story. But everything else, I think it's more even. But I'm willing to give the edge to Slappy in the episode. So that's essentially the characters. Now, the atmosphere. The episode had a fun atmosphere. It seemed kind of typical, plot condensing, kind of put it down to the house location for majority of the episode. But there was some things dealing with the theater and going back to Jimmy O. James's, hideout room kind of thing. And I thought it did expand on locations more than the episodes previous to it in the Dummy franchise, in the TV show. But the book, man, the book really jumped around locations. You have the Zenman residence, you have birthday parties, you have the basement of the Zenman residence, you have a magic shop, there's a lot more things going on with the atmosphere. And I feel like the story is building this revenge type of story that kind of works than previous Dummy books in some weird way. So, yeah, the atmosphere, I think, will go to the book. And I know it's against tone, but I guess I'll bring up tone. I think the book, kind of going back onto the revenge aspect, I think there was a more darker insinuation with the story, because, Jillian's getting withered away throughout the whole story by her, seeing Slappy with Jimmy O. James in the dressing room, and it kind of bleeds into the rest of the book. And you kind of see her deteriorating mentally a little bit. Not all the way, but it is there. And in the episode, it's just, I don't know, it just takes the traditional approach. It doesn't really go too dark with anything, minus the motives of Slappy. And maybe the ending. But the tone here, it does feel mildly more camp. Now, some people might think that the book is more violent, but I would chalk that up to Slappy trying to be a Mr. Wood ripoff than actually being Slappy. But I think in terms of tone, I'd give it to the book, just by a hair. I prefer the tone of the book a little bit more. Now, for the overall plot, this is a tough one, because like I said, there's a lot to cover here. The episode is essentially in name only. So, like in the episode, Jimmy O. James starts off the story. He finds Slappy, animates Slappy to life. Slappy says, alright, if you want to get famous, you got to stick with me. Becomes a famous ventriloquist, hosts a show. Jillian, Harrison, and Katie with Mary Ellen go to see the show. Slappy supposedly falls in love with Mary Ellen, and the audience feels like they know that. And Jillian ends up meeting with Jimmy O. James, and they're talking. And I think Jillian leaves her address in case Mary Ellen gets found. And I think that's how Jimmy knew to ship the Slappy over to her. But she gets shipped Slappy this time, instead of Harrison finding him in a dumpster. And the story pretty much plays from there. And then it kind of shifts the plot, more focused on the bride aspect that came in later on in the ending of this book. Making it more simpler. Slappy just wants a bride. Steals the mom's wedding ring to propose to his bride. And kind of goes into the predictability part of it, especially with the Mary Ellen bits. And, at least the ending makes it stick out more so than the book. As in the book, it starts off with Jillian, with a deep monologue about her not liking her twin sisters because they hang around this doll named Mary Ellen, and she gets annoyed by them. She ends up having to go to this ventriloquist show like she promised them, and she sees Slappy and Jimmy O. James there, and one thing leads to another, and she gets sidetracked from her sisters in the aftermath of the show, and she tries to find them, and she stumbles across Jimmy and Slappy, talking, and Slappy's alive, and she busts in on that, and Jimmy tries to deter her, and she thinks she's just seen something weird and had an off day, and when she gets home, Slappy was brought home by Harrison, who said that Jimmy O. James threw him away in the garbage, and for the rest of the book, Jillian has this, mind screwy type of thing that Slappy might be coming after her, but it goes into some tangents about her trying to practice being a clown for birthday parties, and her having, escapades with Harrison at this kid's birthday party, and her trying to find Jimmy O. James's house to learn ventriloquism and stuff. And then the final act is her going to another birthday party where the ending commences, and that's essentially the book. If I had a preference in terms of plot, I'm looking at straight up entertainment value. I will say the book has a lot of middling parts to the plot. It has a lot of filler in the middle, and it kind of tanks it down for me. Some context issues with the end reveal is also there, but the episode is a little more basic, and I'm not saying that's an unnecessary thing to say as an improvement, because it isn't, and it's a give and take with these, really. The episode is just more entertaining with its plot. I think the simplicity of it makes it easier to digest. It's more straightforward, but it's also not a lot to it, and I can't really praise it. At least the book had something there, and it's so hard to kind of weigh the plots here that, although I do acknowledge the episode's more entertaining, I'm going to kind of deadlock them here, if I'm being honest. I mean, like I said, I just can't praise the episode like that. But it is entertaining. More entertaining, I'll give it that. Now, for the climax. The climax is a bit different, as in the episode, it's essentially just Katie and Jillian trying to escape her house by themselves while Harrison's locked in a bathroom. And they come to the whole realization about Mary Ellen and Slappy, and all that ensues. The book is a little more convoluted, but there's a setup about this birthday party, and her and Harrison have switched from clown acts to being ventriloquists, and they're hosting a birthday party in Jillian's basement, and things go awry with Slappy as a last minute change, and there's big revelations revealed about Mary Ellen and Slappy's motivations and all that. And you get motivations here in the episode too, but for more so, the results of the climax is pretty much the same, dealing with like a saw that's in the father's workshop in the basement doing something to the dummies and the dolls, and essentially the result's the same, but the bill is a bit different. If I had a preference for climax, I'd probably give it to the book. I think the book's build was a bit more intricate, even though it leans into the whole ripoff of Mr. Wood and all that. I like what it constitutes with the revelations with Mary Ellen. I think the revelations are done better than the episode, and yeah, so that's that. Now, if we're going on the ending, the ending, without a shred of a doubt, goes to the episode. The ending in the episode is absolutely iconic and one of the best Goosebumps endings of all time in anything Goosebumps has ever released. The book's ending takes it back for me. It's a big detracting point for me, and involves one of the characters and what became of them, and this is something loose that involves a portion of the story that happened off page. We're going back to off page Goosebumps here, and yeah, I'm not really that big of a fan of the ending. But the episode, I absolutely love its ending, without a shred of a doubt. But with all that being said, how do they stack up? Which one is better? Is it the book or the episode? And, weighing it down, I think the book had a better Jillian. I think the book had, it had Amanda, but really she doesn't really matter. Some characters are more even, kind of like Katie. I think Harrison is a little more even though he has a little more to him in the book. I think Mary Ellen's better in the book. But the rest of the characters, or, the parents and stuff, is even. Slappy's better in the episode. Jimmy O. James is better in the episode. The characters that really count and matter. Mary Ellen is still creepy, so she kind of wins here in the episode in some ways. The atmosphere goes to the book, but the episode does try. The tone, I think, is better in the book, but the episode is still serviceable. It's just more entertaining overall with its atmosphere and tone. I think it's more entertaining overall. And I guess if I can have another superlative, like which one's more entertaining, the episode. And you'll see why. It's just really well acted. It's one of the better acted episodes in the whole show, period. But yeah, the entertainment factor just really gives it some bonus points for me. The plot, the simplicity, they're just really even. There's give and takes with both. I don't really have a preference for which. The climax, I think, is a bit better in the book because there's more to it, but the climax in the episode's still serviceable. And the ending, in my opinion, is so iconic with the episode that it just tramples over the ending of the book completely. So it's so even. I struggle to really think I have a preference for either one. If I do have a preference, and trust me, this is me coming up with this on the fly here. I really think, in terms of which one's better, I think they're pretty much tied. So I'm going to deadlock them. But if I had a slight preference, I'd give the edge to the episode slightly for being more entertaining. But they're really a tie for me. I think the pros and cons kind of balance out for both. I can't really decide which one's better. And a lot of people will say, probably agree with me down in the comment section, if you do think Bride's episode is better, you just think that it's better because it's more entertaining and the ending is iconic. Everything else, it's serviceable or very comparative to the book, and sometimes even a downgrade. But I think the entertainment just really sells the episode, and it's really weird. It's one of those special case circumstances in these book versus episode videos where I think on paper the episode should not be better than the book, but it just has so much entertainment to it and has such an iconic ending to it and some iconic moments in the episode that just kind of propel it to be even. And that's where I'm at with it. So yeah, that's my thoughts about Bride of the Living Dummy. Just remember, this is a book franchise. Go read the book first and then go watch the episode. I think both kind of offer their own flares to the story. I think if you're a fan of the Dummy franchise, you'll probably enjoy the book. I don't know the severity of it, but if you're a Slappy fan, you're really going to probably enjoy the little shakeup that this book is. And then if you're like that, try the episode. The episode does some different things to it. You might think it's a downgrade depending on how much you love the book, but I think most people will really get a kick out of the episode. It's just really easy and a digestible episode. And it's very entertaining, and that's all you can ask for. So yeah, that's my thoughts about the Bride of the Living Dummy book versus episode here. Which one do you think is better? Do you think the book is better or the episode is better? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.